We're going to start in chapter 2. We're going to cover chapter 3, but we're going to springboard from chapter 2 because we left off there last week talking about a few things that we didn't quite finish covering. But that thing will lead us into chapter 3. We decided to go ahead and just do our whole series on the book of Ruth, only 4 chapters. We're trying to cover at least a chapter a week and trying to move through. And there's still much more that we can cover. We're just really kind of highlighting some things. There's so much in here that if we ever get back around to it again, we'll need to cover some more things and as the Lord leads. But we covered, a few weeks ago, we started chapter 1, of course, and we covered the basis of this book and about Naomi and her husband who had committed sin, and because of their sin, they run into some tough times because of sin. How many of you know sin, the old saying is true, sin will take you further than you want to go and leave you longer than you want to stay. I know some very dear friends right now who are in that very situation, who are in that place right now. And we're praying for them. I love them. My heart's broken for them. We love them. We pray that God will restore them. And and you know, some of them pastors. And so it's heartbreaking. My heart breaks for them. My heart breaks for their churches. And we just pray that God will move in their behalf. And sometimes I get thinking about those things. That brings me to tears as well. But sin will do that to you. That's what the end result of sin is. And or the end result is death, actually, of sin. But thank God for His grace. So anyway, we covered some of that ground the first week. Naomi got bitter, and she started blaming God for her plight whenever she actually put herself there, as we do so many times. Then we moved last week into chapter 2, and she made her very fervent speech to her mother-in-law, Naomi. And we talked about it being one of the most beautiful declarations to authentic family love. It's used in a lot of weddings now. You hear maybe use it at your wedding. You hear it a lot in those things. And we talked about Boaz as a type of Christ, being the kinsman redeemer. And we'll talk a little bit more about that this morning. Ruth was a Gentile. She was a type of the church. And so we talked about some of those things. And when we trust God and obey Him, we talked about how He begins to work on our behalf when we trust Him. Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not to thine own understanding. In all thy ways, that's key. That's some of the key wording in that verse. In all thy ways acknowledge Him. In all thy ways. And He shall direct thy paths. So God directs the paths of those who trust Him wholeheartedly, who entirely, completely trust Him. Trust is more than just simply trusting. It's in the Hebrew and Greek. In this case, the Hebrew, it's a very, very detailed, involved word. And we might look at some of that as well a little bit this morning. But Boaz, we talked about what a godly man he was, a godly leader, a godly supervisor, loved the Lord, blessed people everywhere he went, and they in turn blessed him. And God rewarded this man because of his faithfulness. And we talked about how that, faithfulness, many people don't let their faithfulness be influenced by their prosperity or their poverty. You can be faithful whether you're rich or poor. You can be faithful. You can be faithful to God regardless of what your bank account says. You can be faithful to God. Now, there's sometimes we get in our mind, well, I just don't have it to give, and I wish I did, and I just don't have it, and I'd like to. That's all right. God knows and understands. If it's the truth, if you don't have it to give, He understands that. He knows it's the truth. He'll bless you where you are. He'll bless you in your poverty if you'll be faithful in your poverty. See, what you have to do is be faithful. It's not, again, I know I'm sidetracking here a little bit, but it's not the amount of money that Jesus deals with. It's the attitude of the heart. The little widow who put in all that she had, over a couple of pennies, put in all that she had, but the Lord recognized that. Because she was giving out of her abundance, out of her heart. Everything she had, she gave. And He recognized that. So it's not the amount, it's the attitude of the heart. Even back then, 2 pennies wouldn't go very far, even in those days. And so the Lord didn't worry about the amount. All He was concerned with was the attitude of her heart when she put it in. And so, trust the Lord and be faithful to Him, and He certainly will honor your faithfulness, whether you're rich or poor or anything else. So, I want to begin, as we launch into chapter 3 here this morning, I want to backtrack just a little bit to chapter 2. stand with me. We're going to read one verse